And I'm particularly curious why we as humans are so readily able to allow it.
Welcome to Maxed Out Man, helping you become the man you were made to be.
Hey guys, it's Kevin Davis from the Maxed Out Man podcast. I am here with Rob Rene today, which is going to be a lot of fun. Before I get started, I want to remind you, go to maxedoutman.com. Check out what we have to offer there. We've got tons of done-for-you stuff, coaching, and courses, and all of that. So take a look at that, see what we've got going on. I do want to mention, and I've mentioned this the last several podcasts, we're kind of thinking about doing a trip to Costa Rica. Have no plans whatsoever, quite honestly. We have kind of a general idea of what we want to do. We're thinking about fall 2024, sometime in 2025. So if you're interested, shoot me an email, kd@maxedoutman.com. Let me give Rob's bio. Rob's the host of the I Am Pain-Free podcast, focusing on natural and faithful living. He describes himself as a warrior for your faith and health, and as a CEO of Exodus Strong. So we'll talk about Exodus Strong, I'm sure, at length. He's a near-death survivor and athlete, and is an expert on natural health, herbal medicine, frequency healing, and molecular hydrogen healing. He also works as a medical cartel investigator. I love that. I love that term. So I want to dig into that to expose the issues within the mainstream medical system. I don't know what you're talking about, Rob. I think it's perfect. Everything's great.
Yeah, hey.
So
Yeah, you can stay under that rock if you want.
Yeah, so I'm super excited to have you on. I was looking through some of your bio and your media kit and all that. I'm like, this is going to be super interesting for me, and just I hope for the listeners, because it's kind of an approach that is not mainstream, right? Like it's a little bit different, but it also mixes faith, natural healing, kind of, leaning into what our bodies have, and then also talk about, all the crazy stuff that goes in with our sick care healthcare system.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
give me the background. I always like to get the guest background so that we can kind of set the stage for who you are, how you got here, kind of what your overall goals are, and then we can just dive right into whatever topic we want to talk about.
I love it. Sounds great. So my background is just really interesting, right? I believe now, looking back on it, that God has been training me my entire life. But as you go through your life, you never feel that way, right? So when I was young, I was a runner. I really liked running, and found passion in that, and read a book called Eat to Win. And that book was transformational in my running, because I realized that what I actually put in my body fueled my body. And now that's come back to life in my world in a huge way. But back then, I just was using it as a way to improve my running. And it was awesome, because my competitors were out eating pizza and hot dogs, and I'm fueling my body appropriately. And I was a distance runner, so at the end of the race, right, I had energy and was able to finish much stronger than a lot of my competition. So I think that really helped differentiate me, and I was on my way to become what I wanted to be as a world-class runner, right? I wanted to actually make a living running, and that was my goal. I made the U.S. junior team. I won some national championships in running, and then the U.S. junior team was awesome, because I was like the second best miler in the country, and then went on an international tour and won an international race against 5 other countries. And I was like, man, I'm on my way. I'd gotten a Division I scholarship to a amazing school, and I was out training one winter, and it changed my life. I was running, and I had a bloody nose earlier in the run, and my buddy and I were out on a 10-mile thing out in Utah, really cold, wintry day, and ended up we were running along, and my buddy jumped into the ditch and yelled my name, and I turned around and I saw a truck coming. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna get hit, and this 4x4 truck hit me in the hip and threw me 36 feet, and I landed straight on my face and then my knees. And so I'm laying unconscious on the side of the road with a bloody nose that was going back into my throat. So literally clogged my throat. So I'm not breathing. I'm unconscious. And I'm laying on the side of the road. Not a good combination. So yeah, the Lord had a plan for me, because my friend unclogged my throat. He realized I was not breathing and helped me breathe, which was huge. And then when they came with the smelling salts and woke me up like 12 minutes later, so I would have died if my friend hadn't had let me breathe.
Mhm.
But then when they came, gave me the smelling salts, I was like, wow, where am I? What's going on? And that point, I just realized that my career was over. Right, my goal in life was over. My career was over, and it became a really difficult period for a number of years. I went into I would call a depressed state. I just was like really frustrated. I couldn't be around running at all. I couldn't watch running on TV. I couldn't, just it was like, something in me had died. That was my whole world. But
and your identity,
yeah,
right? Like you had lost your identity, right?
Yeah, it was really, really difficult part of my life. So looking back on it, again, and I think the Lord's like saying, okay, this wasn't your plan. This is your plan. And so I went into corporate sales and did that for a number of years and was really successful in enterprise software sales. And then, the second truck hit me. But the second truck was different. This truck was the truck that hit everybody. It was the pandemic. So I call it the second truck because it had just a similar impact on my life that the first one did. So when this pandemic hit, it was like I lost my sales job because I couldn't travel. And I was just like, what's going on with the world? And I just really got frustrated because I went back to that point where I knew that nutrients, fueled my body. So I'm like, hey, if I'm going to be healthy, I'm going to make sure that I'm doing things correctly. So I was eating healthy and I was getting the right nutrients. And then all of a sudden I see all these all natural health doctors getting vilified. I'm like, why are they I mean, the guy's recommending vitamin D. It's like, that's one of the most... How
dare you?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, that's the most natural, nutrient we have, right? It's like, how can you vilify that? And so that really frustrated me. I could tell there was an agenda, but I had no idea what I was doing. So I just started doing research. And my brother introduced me to this term called Mockingbird Media. I was like, what the heck is Mockingbird Media? And then as I understood that and did research on that, I was like, wow, our information is being controlled in general. It wasn't just the medical information, but then obviously that I could tell from the medical industry that it was being controlled. And I'm like, okay, so I just started doing all this research. And boy, what I found just woke me up in a huge way. And I really felt like that period after getting hit by the truck, where I was really depressed and frustrated because I'm just like, I've been lied to my entire life. And that was just a really bizarre feeling because I'm like, we're in the United States of America, right? We're in the land of the free. We have an amazing country. I love our country. I wanted to run on the Olympic team, right? That was like, I love my brothers, my oldest brother was in the military. It's like, I loved this country, and to see what happened with our information, how we were being controlled, in my honest opinion, being lied to, I was like, this is really, really frustrating. So through all of that, I'm like, how can I help? I'm the little me. What can I do? And so that's when I started doing all that research. I'm like, okay, I know all natural solutions are good and they're helping, so I'm going to go create a supplement. That was my initial thought. And then I got introduced to this gentleman who had quantum energy frequencies. And at first I was like, what the heck is a quantum energy frequency? Right? So I had no clue. So I did my due diligence and did a bunch of research again on that. I think that's one of the things I want to implore on everybody, every listener is, think for yourself nowadays and do your own research, because the information that we're being fed all over the place, whether it's radio, news, even movies and entertainment and the music we listen to, is a controlled message in a really large part. And they're really brilliant at it. So you hear it 4 or 5 times and you're like, it must be true. Right? Because you heard it 4 different times from 4 different sources in a little bit different way, but you're like, oh, okay, that must be true. But anyway, so just do your own research on things and go find your own sources of what you think is the truth, and then vet that against the other people who may have solutions, right? Or who may have information, and then just start vetting that information. So I became really, really good at that. I found really quality sources that I vetted that I think were high quality. I really did dug into that medical industry, right? Why are they recommending the things they are? And in the early 1900s, our medical system in the United States was basically taken over with Rockefeller medicine, and so you can do a lot of research on that. I can point a lot of people to the details if people are interested in it. But in summary, they started teaching and only this Rockefeller petroleum-based medicine, and in even the medical schools, they only taught that as ways to help people, and they got rid of and vilified all of the all natural health practitioners. And that's, again, so it was really similar to when you saw COVID and how they just attacked all these all natural health practitioners. It's really similar what they did back in the early 1900s. But back in the early 1900s, about 50% of our doctors were all natural health practitioners. And now you fast forward to now, what's the percentage of all natural health practitioners? It's like 0.01%, or maybe 0.1% or something. It's really, really, really small. So they've done a masterful job of getting rid of people who are trying to help our bodies holistically and naturally. And that's what is the research that I do. God made us an incredible body. It's incredibly complex, and it's an incredible mechanism. And if you feed it with the right nutrients, it will heal itself. You imagine that, right? And so I've been doing a lot of research on that, and that's why we founded this Exodus Strong. We've developed an incredible product that is transformational on people's health, and we have a faith-based aspect to it. The products are 7 biblical ingredients from the Bible that are amazing for health and energy, and then we combine it with this molecular hydrogen product that's just a game changer. So it's been a fun transition from going back to my early years, and then being hit by the truck, and then get hit by the second truck, and now here I am. And I think, like I mentioned at the beginning, God has a plan for my life, and I think I'm finally stepping into it.
Yeah. It's funny. This morning, I'm started working on a book called "Maxed Out Life." Is the working title? But the introduction starts with a phrase that I use all the time, which is, "No good story ever started with, it all went according to plan."
Isn't that the truth?
And so it's I've leaned into that so much, because if everything goes according to plan, it makes for a terrible story, because it's everything you expected.
Boring, right?
It's boring. And so I think that's my life in particular has gone that way. It sounds like your life has as well. So that's super interesting. I do, one of the struggles that I've been having, since you're kind of this investigative person, how do you find these sources? Like I've gotten to a point, I'm 51, I've gotten to a point now where I don't trust anybody. First of all, I just don't look at the news almost at all anymore, and it's ironic because my wife, her degree is in journalism and public relations.
All right.
And but we grew up in 1990s journalism, which was only slightly more objective. It's depending on how deep you go, there's still a narrative and all that stuff. But even before that, it was probably more objective than entertainment.
Right.
But I don't even know how to find solid sources anymore, because you're just making the assumption it's all made up for some agenda, right?
It's such a good point, because you're totally right. In my opinion, you have to stop listening to the narrative. That's the first thing you got to do, right? And all media is a narrative. I don't care if it's radio or TV or even social media. It's all controlled.
Curated is what I think the word that you know.
That's probably a better word, right? But they come out with a particular agenda, and then they make sure that their armies of people that are going to feed this information start feeding that information out to the world. And it literally is an army. It's like an army of bots that they use, as well as an army of people that are in these media organizations. So it's very vast, and it's a really, really, really well done and really complicated thing that they've instituted on all of us. So the answer to your question is, you have to go dig, and when you dig and find resources, one of the funny things you just said is you don't trust anybody, right? The reason I love that is because my wife gets so mad at me, because she'll come up to me and she'll tell me something, and I'm like, oh, okay. but she knows for a fact that I don't believe her. Because I have that it's in me right now where I'm just like, I don't trust anybody or anything. I love my wife to death, right? And so of course I trust her, but the information that she's going to give me, I'm going to say, okay, interesting. Where did you find that out, right? And then I want to know where she got that information, and then I have to go dig. I have to go find out where that came from, and then where that came from, and then over time you do start finding people that you think you can trust. But you're right, that one person that I think I could trust could be just as bad. So you have to, you can't trust them all the time. You have to kind of just take all this information in and then think for yourself. So that's when you start finding some good sources of information. You don't even trust them, but you got to really just think for yourself. And I cross-reference everything I'm learning with the Bible too. It's just like if it passes my sniff test and it passes my faith test from does it agree with what the Bible says? Then I will, that's when I make better decisions after I've done my sniff test and I've done the faith sniff test, and then I'll make a decision based upon that.
Right. Yeah. Because it's weird. Because it's like this weird continuum, right? Like you have the bought and paid for guy over on this end, right?
Yeah,
and then you have this dude lives in his mom's basement, is completely insane on this end, right? So like, and that's why I say that
either side, right?
Yeah, it's hard. Cool. It's hard to find someone that, like takes, and I don't know how you feel about him, but someone like Joe Rogan, for example, who tends to be on his podcast pretty open-minded about almost anything, right? Like I know, just like all of us, we have our own internal biases that we lean towards, and he does clearly. There's no question.
Right.
But like we need more people that are investigative, but almost moderate, like to be open to like, hey, this last guy told me this, and you're telling me this. Like, how do we reconcile those two things, right?
Yeah, no, that's right, and that's one of the reasons why I do like Joe is because he is like that. Even he'll take on tough conversations that no one wants to talk about, and he'll talk about them, and I like that. So at least he's open to listening, and I think we all need to be that way. We need to just it's not a right or left thing. It's in my opinion, what's going on in our world is it's a good versus evil.
Mm-hmm.
Thing that's going on right now. So, I love everybody on the left. I love everybody on the right. I love everybody in the middle. As a faith-based Christian, that's what I believe I need to be like, but doesn't mean I accept everybody or what they're doing. Right. Yeah. I don't accept that. And then, so anyway, it's a very
well. I mean, at this point, we probably, if they're still putting that misinformation label on Spotify, I'm pretty sure the podcast is already there. So we might as well.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all good. We might as well just dig into it a little bit. It's interesting that, like with Rogan, for example, was a very public figure. And I'm curious about your opinion with, like CNN doctored images of him to make it look like he was sick. And the dude's rich, right? Like if you're getting sick and you're loaded, what do? You want to throw everything possible at being healthy, right? Like
wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah. Like vitamin D, he was doing ivermectin, he was doing his normal cold plunge and steam rooms and, all of these IV, all of this stuff that he was doing. Yeah. But to your point, they singled out on, my daughter's a paramedic, and if she doesn't listen to this podcast, she's been on the podcast. Great episode, by the way.
Awesome.
But if I bring up ivermectin to her, she will go absolute ape crap. It's just so, but there's weird. It's just all that thing is weird. But why do you think? So give me the background of what you found for why that happened and why, and we could delve into as much as the weird COVID stuff as you want, right. I have opinions about it.
Yeah.
But I just want to talk about it really.
It's interesting. So if you go back and do the research on Mockingbird Media, right, you look back at the CIA, in order to control information, they infiltrated all the new media organizations with assets. So assets being human assets. So they would put employees in all of the media organizations. And then they have these 4 a.m. talking points where when they wanted to have a narrative sent, they would send at 4 a.m. the talking points of the day. And all these people that work for all these different assets would get that information, or all these assets that worked for the organizations, is a better way to say it, would get this information, and then they would write their own story based upon that talking point. So it always came out a little bit different across all these organizations. But like I was mentioning, once you hear something 3 or 4 times and they're really similar, you're like, oh, I believe it now because I heard it on the radio. And the TV station told me about it. But then I also heard a song that was written about it. So it's like, oh, it's got to be true, right? And it's just, they did a masterful job of infiltrating all these news organizations. And if you look at all the thousands of news organizations across the world, they all fold up into 6 organizations worldwide. So it's they've controlled these 6, then infiltrate out. And Mockingbird Media is something you literally can go do research on and see that it was a true CIA program and project. And of course it's not in place anymore, right? Of course it's not, right? But and they've just done a good job. And then you start researching how our government and really awesome, intelligent people in our government have these mechanisms to control another country, or they have a whole program around the control of information. And so if you read this, and it's really ridiculously in depth of how they do it, and then you take that and read it, and you read it with COVID in mind, you're like, hold it. I just read just what happened, what we would do if we're going to go take over another country. I just read what happened to us as the world, or as the United States, reading through this program they call it, information. It's a way for them, and there's some really awesome, some good terms that I just escaping me, but what those are actually called. But there's specific programs that they do that control that information, and it's really well done and well documented and well instituted. And you would never see it as a citizen. You just are, and I think they've also designed our world where we're really busy. Right. When they say, hey, you need to go to college, and after you go to college, you need to go get a full-time job. And now you have this full-time job. You need to have 3 kids. You need to get married, and you need to have this house. You need to have those 2 cars, and you need to have that white picket fence. And then when you have all of that, you work all day long, and then you come home and you watch sports on TV, and then you have 10 minutes to read something if you're lucky, and then you go to bed, right? And then you get up and do it again. And so the time that people have to sit back and think about something and research something and take time and effort to objectively understand what's going on in the world, you don't have time to do that. I was like that 100%, right? I had a wonderful family, or I do have a wonderful family still, but I had a full-time job. I loved my sports, right? I was a really big sports advocate. So I would watch all the professional sports and be in fantasy football league games. But how much time do I really have to really research what I'm listening to on the radio, right? On the way home? Maybe it is CNN. I used to have CNN on my phone, on the app, and now I'm like, I throw up when I when I do that, because I'm like, I can't believe I did that. But it's just, it was easy. I was traveling all the time, and didn't have a lot of time to do things. So you find your sources of information. That was one of my sources of information at the time. So that's really, really good at it.
Yeah. And then we medicate on the weekends or whatever, whether it be with sports or, alcohol or drugs or pornography or whatever it is used to medicate yourself. And it's been an interesting experiment for me for the last couple of days. I had a guest named Marcus Collius, who's a great friend of mine, but he recently wrote a book, and it's called Play a Bigger Game. But anyway, I'm reading this book, and one of the examples that he gives or one of the exercises he gives is to basically shut off social media and the
Yeah.
news. And
Right.
as we're all addicts, the first step is 48 hours, right?
Okay.
And
Yep.
so I did the first 48 hours, and it's been amazing. So I have to use social media for my businesses. It's just a big part of it. But what I found is I use this program called Refocus, this app called Refocus.
Okay.
Awesome app. It's like $50 a year. They have a free trial, but it basically shuts off your access to all of you can pick which apps, you can pick which websites, and it'll shut it off for either by schedule or a particular amount of time. And so I shut it off for 48 hours. And by the way, I just shut it off for another 5 days.
Wow. Good job.
But what I did was on my desktop in my office, I can still access Facebook,
Okay.
which I need to check. So I go into Facebook, but I go particularly and look for business only notifications. No scroll. This is a little bit of a self-control kind of thing, right? But then I can go do my business stuff, and then to post on my personal stuff, I can actually use a program that we use for posting anyway called Loomly. That's how we kind of, it's a conglomerator, right? We can push out to all the social media.
Right.
But his point was that as I'm reading this morning, it really hit me because I'm reading this section. He said, have you noticed that by eliminating that constant doom scrolling dopamine hit, that you now can focus much more clearly as you read this book? Like, I noticed, I'm reading on Wednesday, for example, and today's Tuesday, the following Tuesday. And like, I find myself wanting to check my phone. I read a paragraph and then I get distracted and I want to do this and, all that. And then this morning, after 48, 60 hours worth of no Facebook, no social media, and no news really, I read like 30 pages without even looking up.
That's awesome.
And it's almost like we have so rewired our brain for that dopamine hit. But what amazed me is how quickly, I haven't reprogrammed my brain completely. That will take some time. But it was almost like in one day, it made a huge effect on how my brain worked. And so all that to say, like, re-engineering your thought process by eliminating or highly limiting those things is so important.
Can you imagine that our children, right, and what they're being exposed to and going through? Because right now, an 8-year-old uses a phone, right?
Yeah.
And they sit there and they're like this all day long. So it's just like, that's an amazing thing that we need to do to help people retrain their brains to learn, because I think that it's so important that our mind and what we feed it is really, really important. That's why I'm in the Bible every day, because I think it's very, very important that I have that time, and I learn that I can focus so much better when I'm actually doing something that's programmatic and thoughtful, rather than, like you said, the dopamine hit is so interesting, and you can lose so much productivity through the day through that. So yeah, I love that. I think that's really smart.
And you don't even really realize it. I think we're so programmed, and and I'm sure you're going to tell me that this is part of the TikTok, right? Like, there's this whole conspiracy thing, and I'm happy to hear any opinion, data, or whatever. I've been listening. I love the author James Carr, who he writes a character named James Reese, who James Carr was a Navy SEAL. James Reese is a Navy SEAL. So I kind of like these military based, like, spy novel type stuff. And there's only been 7, but what he does is he puts in kind of modern day stuff. So they talked about COVID. This latest version, he's talking about COVID as its control mechanism, and TikTok as part of China's, infiltration and all of this stuff. And so, and at the end of the book, one thing I really like about him is he'll go back and say, okay, this is a real place. This is true. This is documented. This is well researched. This is made up, like, and he will leave it to he doesn't just say, okay, this is my opinion, right? Like, he will tell the things that he made up and things that, are true, and then things that could be true.
Right.
But it made me, why do you think, kind of what is that state of our world right now. Kind of give me that
Yeah.
the state of the world, if you will. And I'm particularly curious why we as humans are so readily able to allow it. You know, I've been super blessed to be able to feed into the lives of tons of men from all around the world and all walks of life. And I'm very excited to announce that I do have a couple of spots available right now. If you're interested in working with me, and we can talk about pretty much anything: marriage, business, fitness, parenting, being a dad, dogs, cars, whatever you want to talk about, I'm available to do that. We want to focus on the things that may be most beneficial to you and some things that you may not even know would be beneficial to you. You've listened to the podcast, you kind of know my style. If you are interested in working with me, I want to try to make it as simple as possible, but I also want to make sure we're a good fit. Send an email to coaching@maxoutman.com and just give me 2 pieces of information: why you would like to work with me and what that might mean for you, what things you would hope to accomplish by meeting with me. That'll kick off the process. I'll reach back out to you. We can jump on a call and see whether or not it would be a good fit. So go to maxedoutman.com, coaching@maxedoutman.com. Send me an email with those 2 pieces of information, and we'll see if it's a good fit. And I hope it is, and I hope that we can actually connect.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like it's been decades in the making. This isn't something that's just come upon us, and that's why I think they're so masterful at the way that they have done it, that they're really controlling us from the beginning, right? When we're young, and it's just transformed. And we could talk about 100 different topics related to all of this, but in my opinion, there is a good versus evil fight going on in the world, and the evil, the cabal, as I'll call it, is the big deep state has been trying to take over the world with their new world order, right, and the agenda that they've been trying to accomplish. And they can take over lots and lots of other countries they've taken over, but they're like, how do we take over the United States? We can't take over the United States with guns, right? There's no possible way. So the only way they could possibly take over America was through infiltration. And they've been working on it for decades, and they've come real close to making it happen. I think if Donald Trump in 2016 wouldn't have won, that their agenda would have been expedited dramatically. He was able to change their trajectory, and now even though we've been under this crazy regime the last 3+ years, that I still think that at least we paused it enough. And now I think a lot of people are waking up to this. They're like, hold it, this just doesn't seem right. Wow, this whole COVID thing happened, and man, they made us wear a mask, and they made us get these injections that they're pretty interesting. There's another whole topic we could talk about. And people are realizing that, hey, there was something nefarious about this whole thing. And it's like, what is going on? And you can just see, it's like, literally, it's not right versus left, even though and they want division. They want division everywhere, not just right, left. They want division between color of skin. They want a division between straight versus not straight, whatever the numbers of digits you want to call that, right? They just keep coming up with all these different ways to try to divide people instead of gather us. We all come from the same line, right? If you go back to Adam, we're all people. And so they've just done a masterful job at just creating this infighting and division amongst all these people. And so if you sit back and you take a look at it objectively, you can see that it's a good versus evil fight. It's not gays versus straights, or right versus left, or black versus Hispanic or white, or whatever. That none of that matters. What it comes down to is good versus evil. I think this new world order, the cabal's been trying to take over the United States of America, because once they have us, then they can control the world. They can have this one world government, and then we're in big trouble, because then everything we do is instituted by somebody else. Not we lose our free will, and that's pretty scary place to be. So there's Rob's view of the world in 3 minutes flat. How's that?
I like it. the thing I would say, and this is the devil's advocate, they're saying good versus evil, but to what end, right? Like, why go to all the trouble? Like, obviously the obvious answer is money, but that can't be it, because everyone like, for example, if you look at the investment percentages and success in the market of
Right.
our elected officials versus experts, you can see that there's something crazy going on with insider trading and insider information and all that crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Which, again, look that up. It's nuts that Nancy Pelosi makes whatever a year, and she's earned like $300 million a year or something like that, whatever that number is. I just made that up, but that's okay. But like, to what end? Like, what's the ultimate goal from a human standpoint? Like, because like, obviously we have different governments. We've got Russian government, we have the Chinese government, who I don't believe are colluding with us necessarily. They could be. If you have data or information there, I'd love to hear it. But like, because the average person is going to go, this guy's nuts, next, all of that. So like, I want to get to that so that I really can understand your perspective on it.
Yeah, sounds good. And mine comes just from researching. One, I started off with the Mockingbird Media, right, and that got me into the medical cartel, of what you want to call it. And then you start peeling back the onion, and then you see Naval Harari and what he's done with that. Their agenda, and the Agenda 2030 was what it originally was, if I remember right, the name of it. That they really had an agenda to have a one world government, and that one world government, they literally thought there's lots of, they even come out and said it, there's lots of useless eaters on the planet, right? And so we're just useless eaters, and they want to get rid of a lot of the population in order for the planet to survive. They look at the planet and they look at the projections of the population and everything, and just like, we're not going to survive as a society if we don't do something dramatic, and they're trying to do something dramatic. If you look at their plan, and it's definitely an evil plan, an evil agenda, and there's lots of people that have been working on it, and it's literally, this isn't my opinion, this is just fact. You can go look at the research and look at what these people are doing, and they purposely say it, right? They talk about it. So it's not me saying what they're saying, it's them saying it. I'm just telling you what they're saying, because most people don't understand it, and those people haven't dug in to look and see what are these guys doing, and why are they doing that. And it's like, wow, when you start realizing some of these evil agendas, it's pretty scary, and it's pretty crazy about what they're trying to do. So I didn't mean to dig into just go down the rabbit hole, but
no, that's pretty much what I asked. I mean, as you're talking, it's almost like this Hunger Games kind of mentality, right? Like this, when you look at the Hunger Games, they have basically like this super elite, which actually is reminiscent of Middle Age, peasants versus, the hierarchy, the rich, right? I can't think of the word right now, but you have the peasants and the royalty, for lack of a better term. And so there's kind of that, how do we utilize them as a resource until we use them up? There's obviously in throughout history, we've seen that. And to your point, like, if I want to go, what things do I search for if I want to go learn about that particular thing? Because I don't want to be just over here saying they say, right? They said this, said this, who's they, right? Like, tell me who the they is, so we can go listen.
There are some really good resources. You can go to timetofreeamerica.com, and that's a really good resource that talks about what they call the Great Reset. And the Great Reset is an agenda by these people to do all these things I'm talking about. And then this gentleman who created this website has been doing a lot of research on a lot of these things. And the good thing about there's just tons of stuff you can go research yourself. So you don't have to listen to it from from me, you can go look at it yourself, and you start doing research on this Noval Harari. I think that's how you pronounce his name. It's a strange name, but you see a lot of his talks and what he's doing, and it's just like, whoa.
And where is he from?
That's pretty scary. I don't remember where for sure. I think he might be. I don't know. So it's
Middle East, maybe something given the name.
He's like some European country, but yeah. Anyway, it's pretty scary. Pretty in depth stuff. And my brother has had a podcast for 6 years, and he's been, he digs into this stuff way more than I. I'm more of the business oriented guy working on these companies to try to help people with their health and their faith. And that's what Exodus Strong doing. And my brother, you could have a fun conversation with him. He could talk for weeks about all of these, and he'd give you, he can regurgitate all the names of the agendas and all the people and how they're involved. And so that's where I get some of my information resources from. And that's where I learned how to critically think too. It's like, I didn't even believe my brother when he tells me something, I'm like, oh, interesting. Where'd you find that? And then I'll go do my research. Right. So again, that's like, don't trust me. Don't believe anything I'm telling you. But if you're interested, go research it and prove me wrong. And that's what was kind of fun that got me started on this whole process. Is I was concerned for my brother. I'm like, bro, I think you're losing it, right? I think this is the things you're telling me just don't seem plausible whatsoever, and I disagree with you. And but I didn't know why I disagreed with him. It just sounded too crazy for it to be true. And so that's when I just started doing the research for myself. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go help my brother. I'm going to go prove him wrong. And it went through, and the research I did, I couldn't prove one of the things wrong that he was telling me. And that's what really worried me. I was like, maybe he's right. Maybe he's right. And if he's right, then what does that mean? And that's where I got into that, really, again, that this state of frustration and anger when you go through the process of grieving, right? There's literally a process of grieving that you go through, and well documented. And I went through that process with just frustration with what I thought I knew and what I really didn't know. And then the more I learned, the more frustrated, mad I got. I was like, how could I, I believe I'm a relatively intelligent person who I'm a normal guy, right? I grew up with a wonderful family, and I got a good education, and I've done the things that I'm supposed to do. And but boy, when you feel like you've had the wool pulled over you, it's not a fun thing. It's frustrating, right? So you're like, this pisses me off. How did that happen?
All right, so we're pretty sure that our world is upside down. I don't think anyone left or right would be able to say that it's not just freaking crazy right now, right?
Yeah.
Like I heard someone talk about the other day that said, if they wrote everything that's going on right now in the world to a book, no one would read it because it's so ridiculous and makes no sense whatsoever that no one would read that, right?
It's so exactly.
we got former presidents that are on the campaign trail getting shot at, and half the people think it was faked and half the people don't, and half the people, a percentage of people think now he's Jesus because he survived, and like all this, it's just, and then we got a president with COVID who just is
now he can't be found. It's like, where
now he disappeared. I told my wife, I was like, if I was Biden, I would be super careful about what people gave me, because I might mysteriously die of COVID if I don't agree to get out of this race.
Exactly.
But depending on when you're listening to this, it could be a decade from now. Go back and look at what's happening in July of 2024, because it's freaking nuts. So all that to be said, like, what can we do? Let's just talk about our own health, medicine, things that we can do to like basically make the most of what we have going on in our own personal lives right now.
Yeah.
Just set that stuff aside, because we've got natural medicine and health, molecular hydrogen, frequency medicine. Like, I don't know, obviously I know what natural stuff. I actually use a naturopath myself.
Awesome.
But like, what are those things? Like, what is your approach? What are you learning? What are you teaching? How can people utilize that? I do want to, a little bit of a caveat, and I've talked about this with I had a naturopath on the other day, like a doctor of naturopathy. And we talked about the fact, like, if I am screwing around and I saw half my leg with a chainsaw, right? Like, I'm not going to sit around and go get my Bible and hope that I get healed, right? Like, I want to go to the ER to fix that, right? Right? Like, that's how it works. There are just, that doesn't mean that the entire healthcare system and everybody that's in it is out to get us and all that stuff. Like, that's the caveat I want to give. So
I want to make sure that I don't convey that, because I have lots of people that I know that are in the medical field, right? And none of them are bad people. They're all really good people, right? And they all have really good hearts, but it's not their fault. It's literally right. So if I look back at what I call it, the medical cartel, it has nothing to do with individuals who are trying to help people. I think there's a lot of really good people, but I think that the medical system that they all learned from was controlled for a specific reason and a profit reason. And if you see the power of big pharma now, you see how big pharma operates, and the power that they institute is ridiculously powerful. It's incredible, the power that they have. And so it's really scary, because they can really put some meat behind a message and just crush all opposing opposition in a heartbeat, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really scary with that. So, but I want to make sure that people know that I love people in the medical field, and don't want anybody to misunderstand or misconstrue me. But I believe that God did make us an incredible human body and an immune system that is really complex, and it works well together, and it needs the right fuel, and it needs the right sun, right? It needs the things that God gave us. It needs oxygen, right? And it needs the things that God gave us and that He planted on this earth for us to survive, but then also to thrive, right? And unfortunately, we've been thriving on lots of bad things as a society that are not good for you, right? So I've been doing a lot of research on biblical ingredients, because I really dug into that, right? That book, when I read as a youth, really turned me on that nutrients are super important. So I did a lot of research on superfoods from the Bible and these nutrients, and okay, if He put them on this earth, there's probably a reason for it. And so start digging into that. And then I've done a lot of modern research as well with modern stuff. And so quantum frequencies and just frequency medicine, and started looking into that. And man, you start realizing that your body is made up of energy, and even down to the cellular level, it interacts with itself via vibrations, and those vibrations, aka are frequencies. So frequency medicine is really intriguing and really important, because you can do a lot of things to the body with just frequencies instead of even medication. So we have some skin patches that use quantum frequencies to help with certain health issues like pain and anxiety and allergies and things like that. But one of the most impactful things that I learned was, let's take these best ingredients from the Bible that really help. Like, how can we help people today? That's kind of what we were looking at. And this is a God-created product, in my opinion, is what we've ended up creating at Exodus. Is I was doing all this research on biblical ingredients and how can we really help people. And then this doctor that I was introduced to had these components that creates molecular hydrogen in the body. And he's like, how do I work together with somebody to make a real big impact on the world? And so he saw what I was doing with my research and on the Bible and the ingredients that related to the Bible, and how I really wanted to help people, but it wasn't enough, right? Just these ingredients weren't enough. I'm like, there's got to be something else. So do I do these frequencies as part of it? And so I'm working on all these things. And then the Lord introduced me to this gentleman through a couple of connections, and it's like it's 100% a God thing, because I never would have met this guy if I would have done it myself. But the combination of my seven biblical ingredients that I was doing research on, I did research on a ton, but I picked these 7 specifically for a reason. And then we added this molecular hydrogen blend, and it's like there is no product like this on the market. This product is incredible. It's going to help people transform their health in a really significant way. So I'm so excited. It's really a burden on me now, because the burden is for me to get the message out, because it's such an amazing product. It's going to help so many people that I'm the one now who's holding it up. Right? I'm just starting that. We're just doing a soft launch already. We haven't even launched the product. We're doing our first webinar or introduction to a community tonight. So
nice.
It's like it's literally just begun. But the cool thing, it's so powerful, is those seven biblical ingredients are barley grass, organic barley grass, organic wheatgrass. Then we have saffron, we have cumin, we have aloe, and then we have frankincense and myrrh. And you take the combination of those, and it's really good nutrients. So it gives you the energy that you need. So you end up, it crushes fatigue. It really helps with the nutrients your body needs. And it helps with stress levels. Saffron's amazing at stress levels. It also helps with anti-inflammation. So obviously inflammation causes a lot of people's problems with pain. And pain is a really big problem that our society has. I was doing research with our skin patches. We have a pain skin patch, and that there's over 50% of our seniors have some type of chronic pain. It's like, that's a lot of people. And so that's a problem. So you combine those ingredients, which are really cool and really helpful, and you can find that similar concoction kind of in like greens products. Like if you take those green shakes, you're like, okay, I gotta have my greens today, and everyone's using.
Yeah, we have one of those that I sell.
yeah, right. So that's awesome, and I think those are really good. They're really useful, because you need the nutrients, right? That are part of those. So then you add this molecular hydrogen blend to it, and the combination of the two is just transformational, because this molecular hydrogen generating blend, what it does is, you've heard of those the water bottles like Gary Brecka and those guys that are out there. They want you to buy this hydrogen water. This bottle, you click a button and it turns blue, and hydrogen gets created in the water. And hydrogen water is good. I've been using that for 6 months. I like it. The problem is, by the time you drink the water, you have to drink it immediately. If you don't drink it immediately, it diffuses. But then by the time you put it in your mouth, it goes down your throat and into your stomach, it diffuses just by the time it does that. So by the time your body actually utilizes the hydrogen, it's diffused dramatically from when it's created. So that's a problem. When the awesome thing about our product is, here's the bottle. It's called Exodus, and this product is
like a tincture.
Yeah, it's a capsule.
Oh, a capsule. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I was trying to see whether it had the dropper on the top.
No, it's just a normal capsule.
Oh, okay.
Normal cool bottle with a capsule.
All right.
And the capsule, once it goes inside your stomach, when it interacts with the fluid inside your stomach, it's a magnesium blend that creates the molecular hydrogen. So since your body is creating the molecular hydrogen, it utilizes the large majority of it, right? So that's way, way, way more powerful than the water-generated hydrogen. But then you start doing research on hydrogen and the effects it has on the human body, and it's so exciting because there's so much scientific support of what it's doing to help people. So it's not something, Rob's not telling you it's going to do this. There's a website called hydrogenstudies.com. And you go to that website, and it's got all the studies that have been done on hydrogen on rats and on humans. But then you start looking at what the benefits of it, and it's just very vast. So it's going to help people with really significant health issues and problems out there. If you rank the top 5 health problems, what would you say they were? Just a couple of them. What do you think they are?
I mean, sleep. That would be a cause. Obviously, we have cancer, fatigue, overweight, pain,
and maybe diabetes, right?
Yeah, diabetes.
Yeah,
There you go.
something like that. You
Yeah.
did an awesome job. Just off the cuff, you did amazing, right? Because so well done. Those are really big problems that people have. And if somebody came, to me and said, "Hey, I have one of those. What should I do?" Literally, I'd say this, because this molecular hydrogen helps with all of those issues. So you go do research on how molecular hydrogen helps with blood sugar. Oh, wow, interesting. That's amazing. You go do research on how it helps with inflammation. Oh, wow, that's amazing. You go do research on how it helps with fatigue. Oh, wow, that's amazing. So you just start looking at it, it's like, it's incredible. Even elite athletes use it because it helps with their energy for their performance, but then it's awesome at recovery. So it helps them recover so much faster that then they can do their next workout again, more efficiently and effectively. So elite athletes use it a lot. But the other thing that I wanted to mention related to it that I think is so impactful is the ability for just a normal human, that has an issue. It just takes a couple of capsules a day, and it's going to help people in a significant way. And that's why I'm just so excited to try to get it out to the market, because I know the positive effect it's going to have on people. So,
and have you been able to study kind of the effectiveness and how? I'm interested in that process.
Yeah, so we're just the product is literally in soft launch. So we've only had it out in real consumers' hands for a week and a half. So we haven't done any scientific studies on this particular combination of the two. But if you look at the molecular hydrogen, like I said, there's 1,300 studies that have been done on molecular hydrogen in the body. So we can prove that this product, using a patented blend that will inside the body, it creates that molecular hydrogen. So then you go look at all the studies on molecular hydrogen. Boom, they're there. Our product's going to do that. So that's the cool thing is, yes, we will do studies on our particular product and how it's going to help people. But with even the short time we've had it, it's been really impactful. The first gentleman I met, I gave the product to at a conference last week, and he had some pain in his groin. And he used a couple of capsules and came back later and said, "I've had pain in that groin for weeks." And he says, it's no longer there. It's like, amen, right? This thing, this is awesome. So we get that. And one woman was at a speaking, I'm learning how to be a better speaker. So taking the stage presence one, where they're teaching you how to create your signature talk, right? I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yep.
I was working through that, and one of the women was really struggling. She's like, "I just don't feel like I can't think. I can't remember my lines." And she tried their product, and she came back the next day, and she was so excited. She's like, "I can't believe it. I just took 2 capsules, and the fog my brain fog's gone. It's gone away." And you're just like, "Yes, this is so cool."
That's awesome.
So excited. So it's just fun to have a product that is going to really help people. That's what I'm just so stoked about. So we've got a pretty cool referral program that we're instituting. We call it the Champions Program. So it's not a multi-level program because I just can't stand those. But we do. If people like it and it helps and they want to refer somebody, they can get a compensation for sharing it. And so it makes it really a win-win-win, right? The person who's receiving it gets a really good health product, and then we know that we're going to help the people who are sharing it, and then we help as a company to grow. And as you can tell, faith is an important part of my just foundation. Like I said, I'm a warrior for people's faith and their health. And so we instituted something I think is really important as part of the product. That's got a prayer guide. So we literally have a prayer guide that we give away as part of when you buy our product. And we want people to literally have Monday through Sunday a prayer. We want you to literally read it out loud. We want you to look at it and with your eyes and read it. You're using your mouth to declare it, and then you're praying. And then you using your ears to hear yourself say it. Then you're taking the capsule. So using multiple senses that God gave you to help you with your health. And hey, if the Lord is the ultimate healer anyway, our product isn't healing anybody, right? We're just giving your body the nutrients it needs and then letting the body do what it does. And so Anyway, we hope our goal is to get 1 million new people reading the word through their health. So we're trying to do a good service to the world to help people. And obviously, if you don't believe in the Bible, it doesn't matter, right? It does matter to me, but it doesn't matter if this product's going to work for you or not. This product's going to work regardless. But we also want to introduce people to this prayer guide. We think that's an important addition. So
I love it. So if people want to learn more about that, where do they find all the information about you and kind of get in touch with you and yell at you for your position?
There you go. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm sure I'm going to have lots of those haters. But
how do we learn about Exodus? How do we learn about all of this?
Yeah, awesome. So Exodus Strong is the name of the company. So it's just Exodus is easy, EXODUS, and strong.com. And that's the best way to get a hold of us. And then you can contact our support organization, or there's a phone number there that you can get in touch with our team. And then I'm on all social media stuff, right? So you'll be able to find me on Instagram, Facebook, and those types of things.
But not for the next 48 hours, right?
Yeah.
Like that.
Exactly. I gotta go look at that program, because it's something that now you're in 5 days, man. You're in that's
yeah. And I may just leave it this way. I told my wife that I may just leave it this way unless I'm traveling, which then I need those devices to have access so I can do my stuff. But
I'm excited.
So ExodusStrong.com and all social media. Rob, I appreciate you coming on board, man. This has been super interesting. It
was a really interesting conversation.
I wish you the best with the new product and everything you've got going on. Thanks a lot.
I appreciate it a lot.
If you're looking to really maximize your life and become the man you were made to be, head over to maxedoutman.com and get your journey started today.